The explosion should have killed him. It did kill him, for 4 minutes and 37 seconds. When Sergeant David Colton's heart stopped in the Syrian dust, he stood before the living God and saw the terrifying future barreling toward humanity. Now the discharged Marine has one mission left, one a world hellbent on destruction. But will anyone believe a broken soldier who claims to have seen the end of everything? This is his testimony.
My name is David Colton. I'm 28 years old, born and raised in Texas, and up until 3 months ago, I was a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. I served 8 years, did 2 tours in Afghanistan, and prided myself on being one of the most disciplined, level-headed guys in my unit. I didn't believe in miracles, didn't waste time on religion, and sure as hell didn't think there was anything waiting for me after death. My world was simple orders, strategy, and the men beside me. That's it. The mission that changed everything was supposed to be routine. Early March 2023. We were sent to a remote outpost near the Syrian border, just a quick supply run and intel check. My team was solid: Ramirez, Jenkins, and Kowalski. We'd been through worse. The intel said the area was clear, no hostiles expected. Just another day in the sandbox. We rolled out at 0400, Humvees kicking up dust under a sky still dotted with stars. The air was cold, the kind that bites through your uniform. I remember checking my gear for the 3rd time: rifle clean, ammo loaded, comms working. Routine. Always routine. That's how you stay alive. We reached the outpost just after sunrise. Quiet. Too quiet. The place was supposed to be manned by a few local allies, but when we pulled in, there was no one. No voices, no movement. Just the wind hissing through the empty watchtowers. My gut tightened. Something was off. Ramirez cracked a joke about ghosts. Jenkins told him to shut up. We moved in slow, clearing the buildings one by one. Nothing. No people, no signs of a fight. Just abandoned gear and half-eaten rations. Then, as we stepped into the central compound, the world exploded. No warning. No gunfire. Just a deafening roar, and then I was airborne. The force threw me like a ragdoll, slamming me into a concrete wall. I didn't feel pain at first, just pressure, like my ribs had caved in. My ears rang. Smoke choked the air. I tried to move, but my legs wouldn't respond. Blood trickled down my face, warm and thick. I saw Kowalski first, or what was left of him. The blast had taken half his body. Jenkins was screaming into the radio, but I couldn't hear him. Ramirez was on his knees, clutching his stomach, his hands slick with blood. And me? I was fading, fast. My vision tunneled. The edges turned black, creeping inward. I tried to yell for help, but my lungs wouldn't fill. The last thing I remember is the taste of copper in my mouth, the weight of my own body giving out, and one clear, stupid thought. This can't be it. Then nothing. 1 second, I was choking on dust and my own blood. The next, silence. Complete, absolute silence. The pain vanished. Just gone. No burning lungs, no shattered ribs screaming at me. I could still see the smoke, the rubble, my team scrambling through the wreckage, but it was like watching it through thick glass. Muffled. Distant. Jenkins was kneeling over me, his mouth moving, hands pressing hard on my chest. I saw the panic in his eyes, the way his lips formed the words, "Stay with me, Sarge." But I couldn't hear him. Then I realized I wasn't in my body anymore. I was above it, looking down at myself like some messed up drone footage. There I was, sprawled in the dirt, uniform torn, face pale. Blood pooled under me. Jenkins kept doing compressions, sweat dripping off his nose. Ramirez was shouting for a medic, voice raw. And Kowalski, God, Kowalski was just gone. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. No fear, no panic. Just this weird, numb understanding. I'm dead. The medics arrived, barking orders, ripping open my shirt. One of them jammed a needle into my chest. Another shocked me with paddles. My body jerked, but I didn't feel it. I just hovered there watching them work, knowing it wouldn't matter. The monitor flatlined. A medic cursed. Jenkins punched the ground. Then movement. Not from them. From me. Something pulled me. Not hands, not wind, but a force I couldn't see, gentle and unstoppable. The wreckage, the yelling, the smoke, it all blurred like someone was turning a dial, fading it out. The last thing I saw was the medic shaking his head, covering my body with a tarp. Then the darkness swallowed me whole. Not the dark of night. Not the black behind your eyelids. This was different. Thick. Endless. But not scary. No, that's the part that still messes with me. I should have been clawing my way back, fighting to wake up. But I wasn't. I just let it take me. No thoughts. No memories flashing by. Just emptiness. And then light. Not a flicker. Not a glow. A presence, bright and warm, cutting through the dark like a knife. And with it, a certainty deeper than any order I'd ever followed. This isn't the end. The darkness didn't fade, it burned away like mist under the morning sun. One moment, there was nothing. The next, I was standing, no, not standing. Existing. No ground beneath me, no body to weigh me down. Just light, everywhere, golden and alive. It didn't hurt my eyes. It didn't even feel like light, not really. More like being wrapped in something warm. Safe. The kind of peace you only know as a kid when your dad carries you to bed after you fall asleep on the couch. I tried to look around, but there was nothing to see. No walls, no sky, no horizon. Just the light, pulsing, breathing almost. And then him. No footsteps. No voice calling my name. He was just there like he'd always been. I didn't see a face at first. Not a robe, not a beard. Just love. Pure, solid, real love, hitting me like a wave, knocking the air out of lungs I didn't have anymore. And I knew. No introduction. No, I am Jesus flashing in the sky. My brain, whatever was left of it, didn't even think to question. It was like recognizing your own reflection. Instant. Absolute. You. The word didn't come from him. Didn't come from me. It just was, hanging in the air between us. And with it, this crushing, beautiful truth, he knew me. Not my name, not my rank. Me. Every secret thought, every buried regret, every time I'd lied or cheated or let my men down. All of it laid bare, and he still looked at me like I was something worth saving. My whole life, I'd rolled my eyes at the Bible thumpers. Faith was for weak people, for guys who couldn't handle reality. But this was reality. More real than the sand in my boots, than the rifle in my hands. And it shattered me. I didn't fall to my knees. Didn't bow. Couldn't. But if I could have, I would have pressed my face into the ground and begged forgiveness for every arrogant thought, every time I'd mocked believers behind their backs. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. The light around him shifted, and suddenly I was drowning in memories, not mine. His. The cross. The nails. The weight of every sin I'd ever carried, crushing down on his shoulders instead. And worse, the knowing, the willingness to bear it. For me. For Ramirez. For Kowalski. For the guys who'd never even say his name unless it was cursing. I wanted to scream. To apologize. To ask why he'd bother for someone like me. But before I could, the light pulsed again, and 3 words seared into me deeper than any wound. You are mine. Not a question. A fact. A promise. And with it, the last scraps of my pride dissolved. The Marine in me was gone. The skeptic, the hard-ass, the guy who needed proof for everything gone. All that was left was the raw, shaking truth. I'd been wrong about everything. And he'd loved me anyway. He didn't speak, not with a voice like yours or mine. The words came without sound, pouring straight into me like water into dry sand. I didn't hear them. I knew them, the way you know your own heartbeat. I am the way. Not a sermon. Not some dusty Bible verse. A fact, solid as the rifle I'd carried for 8 years. The moment those words hit, my whole life flipped inside out. Every mission, every firefight, every time I'd cheated death, it hadn't been luck or skill. It had been him. The quiet hand steering me through the crossfire, the whisper I'd mistaken for instinct. I am the truth. And suddenly I saw. Not with my eyes, with something deeper. Every lie I'd ever believed unraveled at once, that I was strong enough on my own. That death was the end. That I didn't need saving. The shame should have crushed me. Instead, it burned away like fog in sunlight, leaving only aching relief. I am the life. The third truth hit hardest. His life, the nails, the blood, the tomb standing empty, flashed through me. Not like a movie, but like memory. As if I'd been there, watching from the crowd, and only now understood what I'd seen. Then came the flood. Not my sins, I expected those. My moments. Age 6, falling off my bike. A stranger catching me before my head hit the pavement. Boot camp. Sobbing into my pillow. Begging God I didn't believe in to just let me quit. Afghanistan. 2021. A sniper's bullet missing my skull by half an inch. 100 near misses. 1,000 small mercies I chalked up to chance. Each one played out before me, and with them, the crushing realization. I'd never been alone. Not once. The darkest scenes came last. The civilian I'd shot in Raqqa because he moved too fast. The lies I'd told the investigation board. The night I'd held my wife's face in my hands and promised I was fine, while inside, I was already dead. I braced for anger, for punishment. Instead, warmth wrapped around those memories like bandages. Not erasing them, healing them. You were lost. Not an accusation. A diagnosis. Now you're found. And just like that, the weight I'd carried since my first deployment. The guilt, the nightmares, the constant itch under my skin vanished. Not buried. Gone. I wanted to stay there forever in that light. But as the last memory faded, a new knowing settled over me. This wasn't just for me. The words came again, quieter this time, but with the force of a detonation. They need to know. Not go preach. Not convert the world. Just the bare, terrifying truth. People were walking blind toward a cliff, and I'd seen the drop. Then, before I could beg to stay, the light began to change. The warmth pulled back. And I felt it, the tug, the awful, inevitable return. Back to the blood. Back to the broken body. Back to the war. But not back to the man I'd been. That man was dead. The light around Jesus shifted, and suddenly I wasn't standing in that endless brightness anymore. I was falling through time itself, watching the years unroll like a nightmare scroll. 2024 to 2026, the cracks spread. The first thing I saw was fire. Cities burning not from war, but from within. America, Europe, streets I'd walk turned to war zones overnight. Not over politics or borders. Over nothing. People destroying their own neighborhoods just to feel something. I saw churches not empty but changed. Pews ripped out, altars replaced with giant screens preaching self-love and spiritual energy. The few who still whispered about Jesus did it in basements like addicts hiding a habit. The economy shuddered like a dying animal. Money turned to paper overnight. My pension gone. My buddies' homes foreclosed. The government promised resets and new systems, but all I saw were hungry kids staring at empty shelves while politicians posed for cameras. 2027 to 2029, the noose tightens. Then came the laws. Not the obvious ones. Not no more Bibles. Smarter. Deadlier. Hate speech now meant quoting scripture on marriage. Mental health checks required to own a gun or attend a private Bible study. Mandated unity training where pastors had to sign statements that all religions lead to God. I watched a pastor I knew, brave as any Marine, get led away in cuffs for refusing to call abortion healthcare. His congregation sat silent, too scared to protest, too comfortable to risk their jobs. The schools were worse. Kids came home spouting slogans about the universe providing, while their parents nodded along, too tired to fight. I saw my own nephew, barely 7, coloring a worksheet titled, My Gender Journey. And through it all, the same lie on every screen, in every speech. We're progressing. 2030 to 2032. The mask falls then, war. Not like Afghanistan. Not nation against nation. This was chaos without borders. Drones with facial recognition hunting extremists, which now meant anyone with a home church. Food deliveries going only to those with the right social credit scores. And over it all, the grinning face of the global reconciliation leader on every screen. A man with empty eyes and a voice like honey, promising peace. The churches that had compromised, shuddered anyway. The pastors who'd stayed silent? First against the wall when the purges came. But the worst part wasn't the violence. It was the emptiness. I saw people, normal folks who'd once grumbled about church being boring, now wandering streets like zombies. No hope. No rage. Just a hollow ache no pill could fix. They got in the world they wanted, no rules, no guilt, no God. And it was killing them. Suicide skyrocketed. Not in shadows, but live-streamed, treated like entertainment. Families traded kids for government credits. Old folks begged for euthanasia like it was a pension plan. And through it all, the leader kept smiling, kept promising this was humanity's final evolution. Then the deception. A breakthrough. A new savior. Not a man. A machine. An AI, perfect and beautiful, offering to unite all minds. To end suffering. To transcend. People wept as they plugged into it. Not forced. Grateful. And as they did, their eyes changed. Not dead. Worse. Content. Finally slaves and calling it freedom. The warning just before the vision faded, Jesus spoke one last time, not to my ears, but to my bones, they will choose chains and call it liberty. But you must choose differently. Then the light vanished and I was back in my broken body, gasping like a drowning man. But the horror didn't leave. Because I knew I wasn't seeing the far future. I was watching tomorrow. The vision faded, but his presence remained heavy, urgent. I wanted to look away from what I'd seen, but his gaze held me there, forcing me to understand. They call evil freedom. The words hit like a gut punch. Suddenly I saw them, people I knew, people I'd fought beside, laughing as they threw away everything that mattered. I watched a buddy from basic training, the one who'd carried a Bible in his rucksack, now drunk in a neon-lit club, grinding against some stranger while his wife sat home with their newborn. His Instagram caption, "Living my truth." I saw my little sister, the girl who used to beg me to take her to Sunday school, now nodding along as a professor sneered, "Religion is the opioid of the masses." Her textbooks called my faith dangerous mythology. Worst of all, I saw churches. Not the empty ones from my vision, packed ones. Mega churches with smoke machines and DJs, pastors in designer jeans preaching, "God wants you rich. God wants you happy," while their congregations clapped along. No cross in sight. No mention of sin. Just a spiritual vending machine, insert prayer, receive blessings. The greatest lie is that I do not exist. The scenes shifted faster now, a news anchor smirking as she compared Christians to terrorists. A school board removing "under God" from the pledge while adding a moment of silence for earth spirituality. A viral TikTok trend where teens burned Bibles for equality. But beneath the noise, I saw the truth they were running from. The club-hopping Marine crying in an alley, vomiting up his 5th shot of the night. My sister sobbing into her dorm pillow after her 3rd abortion. The megachurch pastor popping Xanax before his positive vibes-only sermon. They traded the rock for quicksand and they were sinking fast. You must warn them. The command wasn't gentle. It was a general giving orders before a suicide mission. Few will listen. I saw that too, my old CO rolling his eyes when I tried to talk about Jesus. My wife packing her bags, calling me brainwashed. Online mobs doxing preachers as hate speechers. But in the chaos, I also spotted the others, the ones who would hear, a single mom working the night shift, Googling, "Is there more to life?" A veteran like me, staring at his pistol, wondering if hell was real. A teenager sneaking a Bible app under his "all religions are fake" textbook. The lost sheep. The one still hungry. Jesus' voice cut through the noise, quieter now but unshakable. "They will mock you. They will silence you. But speak anyway." Then, just before the light pulled me back to my broken body, he gave me the hardest truth of all. Love them enough to tell them, even if they hate you for it. The words burned hotter than the shrapnel in my chest. Because I knew this wasn't just a warning for the world. It was my orders. And Marines don't abandon their mission. A jolt of electricity ripped through my chest. Suddenly I was back in the wreckage of my own body. Pain exploded through me like a grenade. Broken ribs, burned skin, the metallic taste of blood flooding my mouth. I gasped, choking on the tube shoved down my throat. "Got a pulse," a medic shouted. Hands pressed down on my sternum, sending fresh agony through me. The helicopter blades thundered overhead. I tried to speak, to tell them I'd been somewhere real, but all that came out was a wet, gurgling cough. Jenkins' face appeared above me, streaked with dirt and tears. "Sarge?" "Oh God, Sarge." His voice cracked. They'd been loading me into a body bag when my heart restarted. The flight to Germany was a blur of morphine and nightmares. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the light, the future, his face. The machines beeped around me, but all I could hear was that final command. "Tell them." At Landstuhl, the doc said I died for 4 minutes and 37 seconds. "Miracle you came back," one nurse kept saying. She didn't know the half of it. Command sent a psychologist. "Classic PTSD episode," the captain said, flipping through my file. "Near-death experience triggers vivid hallucinations. Common among combat vets." He offered me pills. A discharge packet. I took the pills, pocketed them, nodded along as he explained how trauma rewires the brain. Because I knew the truth. If I said out loud what I'd seen, they'd lock me in a psych ward. Or worse, send me back to the front with a mental instability flag on my record. So I played along, checked the boxes, said all the right words about processing my experience. But at night, when the ward fell silent, the visions wouldn't leave. I'd close my eyes and see the empty churches, the grinning global leader, my nephew's confused eyes as teachers erased his gender. Worst were the faces, people I'd known my whole life, now strangers in the visions. My high school football coach rotting in a re-education camp. My baby sister, old before her time, lining up for the suicide clinics. The docs called it survivor's guilt. But I knew better. This wasn't guilt. It was a mission briefing. And as I lay there counting the ceiling tiles, one truth burned brighter than the pain. They'd brought my body back to life. But my soul? That belonged to him now. The house smelled like lemon cleaner when I finally made it home. Sarah had scrubbed everything, like she could wash away the war if she polished hard enough. She stood in the kitchen wearing that pink sweater I loved, hands shaking around a coffee mug. "You look different," she said. I should have lied. Should have made up some story about head trauma and meds. But when I opened my mouth, the truth spilled out like shrapnel from a wound. I died over there. My voice sounded foreign to me, and I saw her mug hit the floor. Coffee splashed across her shoes. The more I talked, the smaller she became, shoulders curling inward like a flower wilting. When I got to the part about Jesus, she made a sound I'd never heard before. Half laugh, half sob. "They warned me about this," she whispered. "The VA said you might fixate on religion. Sarah, listen, you're not my David." Her tears fell on the broken ceramic. The man I married didn't believe in fairy tales. That night I found her Googling dissociative disorder on her phone, thumb moving frantic over the screen. The glow lit up her tear tracks. The guys avoided me at the battalion barbecue. Ramirez used to slap my back hard enough to bruise. Now he hovered near the beer cooler, eyes darting away when I approached. Jenkins, good old Jenkins, who'd pumped my chest in the dirt, actually crossed himself when I mentioned church. "Look, Sarge," Kowalski's replacement said, chewing a burger, "we all cope different. You do your Bible thing. Just maybe keep it to yourself." Laughter erupted from the poker table. Someone told a joke about Sky Daddy. Another Marine, a kid who'd nearly died in the same blast, caught my eye and looked away fast. I stood there holding a plate of cold potato salad, realizing they'd have taken a missing limb, a drug habit, even a suicide attempt. But this was the one wound they couldn't stomach. 0300 found me on my knees beside my bunk. Not praying. Not really. Just empty. The base was silent except for the hum of the AC unit. My dress blues hung in the closet, metals glinting in the dark. "I don't know how to do this," I whispered to the God I still wasn't sure I believed in. No lightning, no angelic choir, just the quietest thought, slipping into my mind like a teammate sliding a fresh mag into my hand. "You don't have to know. Just go." I pressed my forehead to the scratchy wool blanket. For the first time since childhood, since before the Corps, before the war, before I learned to sneer at weakness, I let the tears come. They didn't fix anything, but they were honest, and maybe that was enough. The phone shattered the silence like gunfire. I fumbled for it in the dark, half convinced I was dreaming. The screen glowed NO caller ID. My thumb swiped answer before my brain caught up. "They need to know what's coming." That voice. Not a voice, really more like thoughts pressed directly into my skull. The same tone that had spoken in the light. My throat locked. The digital clock read 3 o'clock exactly. "Who is this?" My whisper sounded ragged. Static crackled. Then, quieter but clearer. "You've seen the cliff. They're running toward it." I knew that voice. Knew it deeper than my own heartbeat. The line went dead. I sat there clutching the phone until my fingers cramped. Checked the call log, nothing. No record. Just my reflection in the black screen. Hollow-eyed, beard grown out from weeks of barely functioning. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall with a plastic crack. PTSD. Sleep deprivation. Breakdown. My old self listed diagnoses like checking gear premission. But the part of me that had stood in that light knew better. I yanked open the motel Bible from the nightstand. It fell open to Ezekiel, some verse about being a watchman. My eyes snagged on the lines, "If you do not warn them, their blood will be on your hands." The AC kicked on with a groan. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the interstate. Normal sounds. World still turning sounds. But the words from that call burned in my chest hotter than the shrapnel scars. I could walk away. No one would blame me. Hell, everyone expected me to collapse, the broken vet seeing things, hearing things. I had the perfect excuse to keep my mouth shut. The phone lay broken on the carpet. I stared at it until dawn light crept through the curtains. Then I reached for my laptop and began to type. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Sarah didn't even come herself. Just sent some stone-faced process server to hand me the papers outside the base commissary. Irreconcilable differences. That's what the legal document said. But I knew the real reason was printed between every line. My husband lost his mind in the desert. She got full custody of Jake and Lily. The judge didn't even blink when her lawyer played the recording, my frantic 3 a.m. rant about end times and visions. They called it religious instability. Labeled me a potential danger. Last time I saw my kids, Lily hid behind Sarah's legs. Jake, my little soldier, just stared at his shoes the whole visit. When I tried to hug him goodbye, he flinched. The medical discharge came 3 weeks later. Honorable, they said, like that mattered. The colonel wouldn't meet my eyes when he handed me the paperwork. Colton, you're one of the best we've got. But this. He tapped the psyche valve. The visions. The religious fixation. We can't risk it. They gave me a pension. A handshake. A pamphlet for the VA mental health hotline. At the gate, Jenkins was the only one who showed to say goodbye. He hugged me stiffly, muttered, "Take care of yourself, Sarge," and practically ran back to the barracks. I sat in my truck for an hour, staring at my service pistol in the glove box. The apartment smelled like mildew and takeout. I hadn't bothered unpacking. Just stacks of boxes, a folding chair, and the twin bed the VA social worker helped me get. My medals sat in a shoebox under the sink. That's where I was when the nightmares got bad, crouched on the linoleum, shaking, the Bible open to Revelation in my lap. The words blurred as I tried to read. I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Outside, car horns blared. A couple argued in the parking lot. Normal life kept moving. I pressed my palms to my eyes until colors burst behind my lids. 8 years of service. A marriage. 2 kids who used to climb into my lap after bad dreams. All gone. The gun still waited in the truck. 1 round would silence the visions. The memories. The crushing weight of knowing what was coming while the world laughed at warnings. Then, like that first moment in the light, I felt it. Not a voice. Not even words. Just a presence so vast it filled the empty apartment. The Bible pages rustled in a breeze that wasn't there. I didn't hear an answer. I was the answer. Still here. Still breathing. Still chosen. The gun could wait. I had work to do. I didn't kneel like in the movies. Just collapsed forward onto the stained carpet, face pressed against the fibers that smelled like cigarette smoke and bleach. My fingers curled into fists, nails biting into my palms. I have nothing left but you. The words tore out of me, raw and ugly. Not some holy whisper. A broken man's surrender. My whole body shook. 8 years of Marine discipline meant nothing here. I was just a shattered jar of clay, emptied out on the floor of a shitty apartment. Then it came. Not a voice. Not a vision. Just warmth. Starting in my chest like whiskey on a cold night, then spreading outward until even my fingertips tingled with it. The weight on my shoulders. The grief. The failure. The terror of what I'd seen coming. Didn't vanish. But suddenly I could breathe under it. I opened my eyes. No angels. No glowing light. Just the same crap apartment with its water-stained ceiling. But the air itself felt different, charged, like before a thunderstorm. I knew, bone deep, I wasn't alone. The Bible had fallen open to Jeremiah. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born I set you apart. A laugh bubbled up, harsh and disbelieving. Me? Set apart? A divorced, discharged failure with more scars than friends? The response wasn't audible, but it might as well have been shouted. Yes, you. All at once, the visions made terrible sense. Not just as warnings, but as orders. The same clarity I'd had on ops when the bullets started flying settled over me now. Right? Not for fame. Not for money. For the single mom reading her phone on night shift. For the vet staring at his pistol. Speak. Even if my voice shook. Even if they laughed. Even if it cost me what little I had left. Warn. Not to scare. To wake. I reached for my laptop with hands that didn't shake anymore. The social media profile I hadn't touched since deployment still had my Marine photo up, clean-cut, confident, dead behind the eyes. My first post took 3 hours to write. 300 drafts deleted. In the end, I kept it simple. I died in the sandbox. What I saw changes everything. If you're tired of the lies, keep reading. I hovered over the post button. Saw my reflection in the black screen, bearded, hollow-eyed, utterly ruined. The warmth in the room pulsed. I clicked. The war wasn't over. Just fought on different terrain now. Listen to me. Not because I'm special, I'm just a broken Marine who got a glimpse behind the curtain. But what I saw in that light is already unfolding on your nightly news, in your schools, in the quiet erosion of everything that once anchored us. The riots? The laws? The way truth gets called hate, while real hate wears a smile? These aren't random. They're the first tremors. I saw where this road ends with chains so comfortable people beg for them. Christ isn't some fairy tale. He's the living God who pulled me from death to give you this warning. Time's shorter than you think. In my last vision, Jesus stood at a door, not some churchy stained glass thing, but ordinary. Like your apartment door. Like your heart. His knuckles were raw from knocking. Not angry. Not impatient. But God help me, the sorrow in his eyes. It wasn't about judgment. It was about a father watching his children play in traffic, screaming, "Come home," while they laughed at the myth of oncoming trucks. This isn't about religion. It's about reality. You feel that hollow space behind your ribs? The one you've tried to fill with sex, money, pills, or rage. That's him you're missing. Not rules. Not rituals. The person who formed you. The world will call you weak for kneeling. But I've faced death with a rifle, and without one, only the second showed me real strength. So here's your mission, soldier. Stop pretending. You know this isn't working. The grind. The mask. The lies. Get honest. Tell him exactly why you've stayed away. He can take it. Choose. Today. Now. Before the door moves out of reach. I'm not asking you to join a church or vote a certain way. I'm begging you to grab the hand stretched out to you. That apartment floor where I finally broke? It became holy ground. Not because I'm good, because he is. The same grace that found a stubborn, sin-stained Marine is knocking for you. Don't wait until the sirens start. Don't end up like the faces in my vision screaming for mercy when it's too late. Right now, as you read this, he's speaking to your spirit. Here I am. I've always been here. The only question left is brutal in its simplicity. Will you open the door?